in Tell Yom.
No, we're actually in Yadayim, right at the beginning of Yadayim for
Right.
Chazar.
All right here. Okay. All right. We do that. Always do that all the time. Revius of water is the wait. This is Revius of
First
water is
Mishnah, you start from the first Mishnah of Yadayim.
right. That's it. That's what I have. Right. Right. A revius of water is the minimum amount for washing hands for one person, even for two people. A half log is the amount for 3 or 4 people. From a log and more is the amount for 5, 10, or even 11 for 100 people. Rabbi Yossi says, provided that there is no less than a revius for the last of them. One may add to the second borders, but one may not add to the first borders. One may pour into the hands from all types of vessels, even from dung vessels, from stone vessels, or from mud vessels, but one may not pour into the hands from the walls of vessels, nor from the bottom of an earthenware bucket, or nor from the cover of a barrel. Nor may one pour unto the hands of a friend from his own cupped hands, because we may not draw water from mekatos, nor may we consecrate mekatos, nor may we sprinkle mekatos, nor may we pour unto the hands except with a vessel. And nothing with a sealed cover can protect its contents from tumor except vessels, and nothing can protect foodstuff from contracting tumor from an earthenware vessel except vessels. Regarding water that became unfit for an animal to drink, if it is in vessels, it is invalid, but if it is in the ground, it is valid. If ink, gum, or copperas fell into the water and its color changed, it's invalid. If one used the water for any manner of work, or if he soaked it in his hand or in his bread, it is invalid. Shimon the Timonite says if he intended to soak it in this water and it fell into different water, it is valid.
Okay.
Okay.
So just the basic principles again of washing hands of Yadayim is that just to understand again from the first principles, hands are by default shneim l'tumah. Okay,
Mm.
secondary tumah. They don't affect chulin food. Perfectly okay to eat chulin food without washing your hands first. It's truma that's the problem, and the reason why Chazal instituted Natilas Yadayim even for us over chulin food is to remind the Kohanim that they need to wash their hands before truma. Yeah, that's why we do Natilas Yadayim nowadays before eating any bread. Okay, now how does the purification work? We alluded to it in one of the Mishnahs that you just learned now, is that you've got to wash twice. The first wash is to eliminate the tumah,
Mm.
and the second wash is to wash away the water that touched the tumah, which is why we said that the first water you can't add to it. If you didn't get the whole hand covered in the first washing, you can't come with another washing and say, oh, let's quickly do a little bit more. Because if you put too little water on your hands, then the water itself became tameh
Oh, okay.
to for this purpose. And then it's too late. You actually have to dry your hands and wash again if you got too little on the first wash. Okay. Mishnah Daled. Hidiach bahim is a kalim. Okay, so if you used water for washing kalim, okay, or shemicha bahem es amidos, or he took his weights and he rinsed them off inside the water. Psulim, you cannot use this water again. This must be water that has not had melacha done with it. So
Mm.
once it's been used, it's you can't use it for netzilas yadayim. Hideach bahem kalim mudachim or chadashim. What happens if he rinsed kalim in it that were already clean or that were brand new? Okay, there was no need to wash them, so there was no actual malacha done with them. They weren't used for, it wasn't used for cleaning, it was already clean. So
Mm.
says the Mishnah, that's kosher because nothing happened to this water, and it still can be used for Netzilas Yadayim. Rabbi Yossi posel b'chadashim. Rabbi Yossi says no, people do rinse out new kalim. Just what is his reasoning over here? It's just for rinsing off, I guess, for the first use, maybe that there's still some metal dust or something on them. So he says new kalim is still considered a malacha. Okay, but he agrees with the principle that if the kli is already clean and you put it into water, that water can still be used for Natzilas Yadayim. Okay. Hamayim she'anachtum matbil b'hem es hagluskin. Now, a baker takes raw dough and wets it inside water.
Mhm.
Even though he's not really washing it, it's not. But all he's trying to do is wet the outside of the roll. Nonetheless, it's possible. Um, because just like any other water that's had malacha done with it. Kashil mediach yadav behen yisherim. But when he rinses his hands in the water, um, and in order to, his hands are clean, but if he puts his hands in the water to pick up some water on his hands in order to rub it on his bread, um, that's actually considered okay because his intention is not to use all of the water in the kli. He's trying to pick up water from the kli, and the water that comes up is from his hand is stuck to his hands, and that was his intention. So whatever's left behind, he had no intention for.
Right.
That's not considered as if he did malacha for that. Hakol ksherim litain liyadayim. Anyone can pour the water for netilas yadayim. Afilu cher shotel katan. Even people who have no das. Okay, so if you have a kid who wants to, let's say, wash the hands of the Kohanim, you've got a Levi who's a kid, and he wants to wash the hands of the Kohanim, that's fine.
No.
He can do that. Meniach chavis, because it's not something that requires kavana of the notel. It's just as we learned actually with mikveh. If a new kli, let's say, or kli from a goy falls into the mikveh without anyone's intention, a goy can put it into the mikveh, as long as it's actually been into a mikveh and come out. That's all that's required. There's no kavanah required. So the same thing appears to be with the yadayim, that once they've been washed, they're fine, they're kosher. Hakol ksherim nitain liyadayim. Anyone can give it. Okay, sorry, I just read that. Meniach chavis bein birkav. He can put a chavis, some sort of a jug between his knees or on his lap, right? But not tell. And he can pour it from his lap onto his hands. So let's say he puts his hands in front of his lap, and he knocks over the chavis. Mateh chavis al tzidani, but yeah, so he knocks the barrel onto its side, and he does netilas yadayim from the stream that's coming out of it. Hakof notel liyadayim. Even a monkey could pick up the water for you and pour it over your hands, and that would be kosher. Rabbi Yossi posel b'shnei elu, but Rabbi Yossi is not happy with this idea, with the mateh chavis and with knocking over a barrel or with the donkey. Why not the barrel? Says because according to Rabbi Yossi, the water that's pouring out of the barrel is kilo, it's coming by is nechshvachim min chavis nechshavim kilo ba'im mikoach adam. Right, so the water that's just flowing out after the initial knockout is not coming out like koach adam. It's not a person who's
Right.
and
Right.
and for sure a monkey. You need koach adam mamash. You need it to have been done by a person, not just by a monkey. So the machlokes between the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Yossi is how much is considered koach adam. You can't just uh, stick your hands under, let's say, there's a stream of, well, let's just think of something that's is just trying to think of an example of how to contrast this. But at any rate, Rabbi Yossi requires koach adam, whereas the Tanna Kama says any kind of koach is fine to do the netilas yadayim on your hands. Okay, where was I? Now there. All right, Perik Beis Mishnah Aleph. Natal liyado achas mishtifa achas. So he pours onto one hand from one pouring, yado tahora. So let's say he picks up with the thing with his left hand and pours onto his right hand. His right hand is now tahor. Ishtei yadav mishtifa achas. If he pours onto both hands to get together from one shtifa, Rabbi Meir metame ad yitol me'revius. Rabbi Meir says it has to have a full revius that goes over both hands. Um, but mashma, that's not that may be a minority view. Let me just check that out quickly. Sorry. Matame, עד שיצאו מרביעס, אלא אם כן שפך על ידו בשטיפה אחת רביעס לא במים. So Rabbi Meir holds that that one who does Netilas Yadayim on two hands at once, if he poured on them twice, for sure they're tahor, even though there wasn't a revius, a full revius in the kli, but the water, as long as the water is coming from the shiarim of Tara, in other words, it was something that somebody previously was pouring from a revius and went onto his hands. We learned that in Mishnah Aleph. But if he just pours once onto his hands, it's only tahor if a full revius went onto both of his hands. Nafal kikar shel truma tahor. So now the water that was used to purify a person's hands is now, let's say, poured it into a bowl, over a bowl, and this water at the bottom has been used to purify somebody's hands, and now some truma falls into this water. What happens? The Mishnah says it's tahor, because having removed the truma, it itself remains tahor.
Right.
Okay. So it's like kind of like a mikveh, if the tumah doesn't have to go anywhere. It just once it's been removed, it's gone. And the same thing goes for the water that was used to purify hands. It's all tahor. But Rabbi Yossi is matame. He says, according to Rabbi Yossi, the water does not that did purify the hands, but they themselves became tameh because of the hands, and they will puzzle the truma.
Someone one time told me a long time ago about if you have a washing cup and it's filled with water already, you shouldn't really use it. Because you shouldn't use standing water. Some people won't use standing water.
It depends on how long it's been standing, I guess. I guess the question is, like, did a cat come and drink from it? In my case, it's a vadai. If you came and found a kli of standing water, my cat has drunk from it.
All right, good. All right. Okay. Base Aleph. Liquids that emanate from a table yom are like liquids that he touches. Both these liquids and those liquids do not render foods tummy. And with respect to all the other sources of tumah, whether they are tummy to a light degree or severe degree, liquids can emanate from them like the liquids that touch them. Both these liquids and those liquids are considered the beginning level of tumah, with the exception of the liquid that is in avatuma. Concerning a pot that is full of liquids and was touched by a table yom, if the liquid was of truma, the liquid is disqualified, but the pot is tahor. If it was a liquid of chulin, everything is tahor, but if its hands were unclean, everything is tameh. There's a stringency that applies to unclean hands over a table yom. That is also a stringency that applies to a table yom over unclean hands. While an uncertainty concerning a table yom renders truma puzzle, an uncertainty concerning unclean hands is considered tahor. Okay. Concerning a porridge made of truma and the garlic and oil are of kulin, if a table yom touched part of them, he has rendered all of them puzzle. If the porridge was full of kulin and the garlic and the oil were truma, and a table yom touched part of them, he has rendered puzzle only the place of his touch. If the garlic was the majority, we follow the majority. And Rabbi Yehuda says when they form a mass in the bowl. But if it was separated in the mortar, it is tahor, since he wants its separation. And the same applies to all other pounded foods if they were pounded with beverages. But concerning those foods that were normally pounded with beverage and a table yom touched the oil, he has rendered puzzle only the oil. But if he stirred it whenever the oil flowed, it is rendered puzzle. Okay. I skip a page? No. Okay. No.
Yeah,
I left that apart. But concerning those foods that are normally pounded with beverages, if you pounded them without beverages, even though they are mass in a bowl, they are treated like a round cake of pressed figs.
That's where we were supposed to stop, yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so Dalet is tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Machshirin.
Okay, Aleph base. If one shook a tree to dislodge it from food or a tummy object, it is not included in the law of if water is placed. Because dislodged from its liquid, Beis Shammai says, what emerges and what remains on the new tree are included in the law of water is placed. Beis Hillel says what emerges is included in the law of water is placed, but remains on the tree is not included in the law of water is placed, because he intends that all of it should be dislodged. If one shook a tree and fruit fell into another tree, or one shook a branch and fruit fell into another branch, and under them were seeds or vegetables that were attached to the ground, Beis Shammai said it is included in the law of water is placed. Beis Hillel said it's not included in the law of water is placed. Rabbi Yeshua said in the name of Abba Yosef Kalai Kifri, a leader of Tivon, you should run to yourself if there is a liquid that generates a susceptibility to Tuma in the Torah unless it places it with intent, for it is stated if water had been placed on a seed. If one shook a bundle of vegetables and the water fell from the upper part of the bundle to the lower part, the Shammai says it is included in the law of water is placed. Beis Hillel says it is not included in the law of water is placed. Beis Hillel said to Beit Shammai, if one shook a vegetable stalk, should we be concerned that the water went from one leaf to another leaf? Beit Shammai said to them, because the stalk is one item and a bundle comprises many stalks. Beis Hillel said to them, but if one brought up a sack full of fruits and placed them on the banks of a river, should we be concerned that the water is ascended from the top of the sack to the bottom? But if he brought up two sacks and placed them on one on top of the other, the bottom one is included in the law of water is placed. And Rabbi Yossi says the bottom sack is also tahor.
Okay.
All right.
Para Tisvav. Wait, para.
All right.
I didn't move my.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Tis.
one place valid paraduma ashes in water that is not suitable for consecration, the water renders tummy someone who is tahor for turma, through contact with his hands and through contact with his body. But respects to someone who is tahor for katos, it renders him tummy through neither through contact with his hands nor with contact with his body. Any utensil that is susceptible to becoming tummy with tumas midras is considered to have contracted tumas madaf in regard to mekatos, whether the utensil is tummy or tahor. And a person is similar to this. Any utensil that is susceptible to becoming tummy with midras, with tumas mace, whether the utensil is tummy or tahor. Rabbi Eliezer says it is not considered to have contracted tumas madaf. Rabbi Yeshua says it is considered to have contracted tumas madaf, and the sages say a utensil with his tummy is considered to have contracted tumas madaf, whereas a utensil which is sour is not considered to have contracted tumas madaf. A person who is tahor in regard to mekatos who touches madaf is tameh. A flask of mekatos that touches madaf is tameh. A person who is tahor in regard to mekatos who touch foodstuffs or drinks with his hand is tameh. If he touches them with his foot, he is tahor. If he caused them to move with his hand, Rabbi Yeshua declares him tameh, and the commentator tahor.
Okay. All right, Krisos.
Okay. Now Gimel. Reb Shimon Suri and Reb Shimon say they did not disagree that concerning anything of one category is libel. Concerning what do they differ? Concerning something of two categories that Reb Eliezer holds them liable to a katos and Reb Yeshua exempts him. Said Reb Yehuda, even if he intended to pick figs, if he picked grapes, and he picked figs, to pick black ones and he picked white ones, or to pick white ones and he picked black ones, Reb Eliezer holds him liable to a katos, and Reb Yeshua exempts him. But said Reb Yehuda, I am amazed that Reb Yeshua exempts him in his case. So if so, why is it stated in which he sinned? This is to exclude an unwitting act. Slaughter blood of cattle, beast or of fowl, whether unclean or clean, blood shed as a result of piercing, or blood shed as a result of tearing, or the blood of bloodletting is by life escapes. They are liable for it. The blood of the spleen, the blood of the heart, the blood of the eggs, the blood of the fish, the blood of locusts, or the blood that oozes out, they are not liable for it. And Yehuda holds one liable for the blood that oozes out. Rabbi Kiva holds one liable to an asham for a doubtful case of Mila, but the sages exempt him. Rabbi Kiva agrees, however, that he does not bring his restitution until it become known to him, and then he accompanies it with an unconditional asham. Said Rabbi Tarfon, why should this person bring two ashamos? Rather let him bring restitution and its fifth, and let him bring an asham for two salem and say, for I am surely guilty of one Mila. Let this be my restitution, and let this my asham. And if it is doubtful, the money is a donation, and the asham is an asham too late. from the same species with which he brings for an obligation of doubt, he brings for an obligation of certainty. Okay. Rabbi Kiva applied to
That's it. We're done. We're done, Kritos.
okay.
Baba Kama.
Okay, Vav Hey. If one ignites a sack of grain and utensils are in it and they are burned, Rabbi Yehuda says he must pay for them, pay for what was put inside it, and sages say, however, he pays for only a stack of wheat or a barley. If there was a kid bound to it and a slave near it and it was burned with it, he is liable. A slave bound to it and a kid near it and it was burned with it, he is exempt. The sages concur with Rabbi Yehuda in the case of one igniting a large tower, and if he pays for all that was inside it, it's customary for people to place things in houses. If a spark flies out from under a hammer and damages, he's liable. If a camel that is laden with flax stands in the public domain and flax protrudes into a shop, catches fire, and the shopkeeper's lamp and ignites a large tower, this owner of the camel is liable. If the shopkeeper leaves his lamp outside, the shopkeeper is liable. And Rabbi Yehuda says in the case of Hanukkah light, he is exempt. The rule of twofold payment is more inclusive than the rule of fourfold and fivefold payments, for the rule of twofold applies both to living things and to inanimate things, whereas the rule of fourfold and fivefold payments apply exclusively with regard to an ox or a lamb. And it is said, if a man steals an ox or a lamb and slaughters it or sells it, one who steals after a thief does not pay the twofold payment, nor does one slaughter or sells after a thief pay the fourfold or fivefold payment. If according to two witnesses a person stole, and according to them,
Okay, that's it. We're done. We're done in Baba Kama. And Erevin.
okay. Hey, babe. What is its quantity? Food for
Aleph.
2 meals? Olive. One, how do we make a communal ever to Chumen? One places a barrel and declares, let this be for all the people of my town, for whoever will go to a house of mourning or a house of rejoicing, whoever accepted this while it was yet day is permitted at the dark. If it is prohibited because we cannot make an Erev at the dark. What is its quantity? Food for 2 meals for each person, or of his food for a weekday, but not for a Shabbos. They are words of Rameya. Rabbi Yehuda says for Shabbos, but not for a weekday, and both intend to rule leniently. And Yochanan ben Broka says a loaf worth a punyan when 4 star costs a selah. Then Shimon says 2/3 of a loaf, of which there are 3 to a kav. Half of it for a house infected with sras, and 1/4 of it to render one body's puzzle. If the residents of a courtyard and the residents of a gallery forgot to make an erev, whatever is higher than 10 fists belongs to the gallery, less than that to the courtyard. The embankment around the pit or rock, which is 10 feet high, belongs to the gallery, less than that to the courtyard. And to what do these words apply? To that which is near, but that which is at a distance, even though it is 10 feet high, belongs to the courtyard. And what is considered near, whatever is not 4 fists away.
Okay. Shekoyach, that's it.
To you, by the way, I think I have a minute of